International Invitation Sprint, and on the inside is Paul Swinnerton from the Stoke ACC. And on the far side there with the fair hair, a rider we're not used to seeing as a professional. He turned professional just 3 weeks ago, Terry Tinsley, and what a week he's had at the National Track Championships. He's won 3 professional titles, Terry Tinsley, and he's now facing in this second round, heat number 1, Paul Swinnerton. And Swinnerton obliged to lead off as he got the worst of the draw, and he must lead for a lap unless Tinsley volunteers to take up the front position. So this particular International Invitation Sprint Series is a series of sprint match races and then a Kieran final. Paul Swinnerton is keeping an eye on Terry Tinsley, who's settled into professional racing in just 3 weeks, and what a tremendous time he's had all week here at Leicester, winning 3 professional titles.
Swinnerton, having picked up the bronze medal in the National Amateur Sprint, he was put out in the semi-final by Paul Sidnan. So he won't be too pleased with that, because he would have very much liked to have been in the final. But he's got a wily customer to handle here, following him, and that's of course Terry Tinsley, a fine sprinter, and he's leaving a nice gap there, which means that Swinnerton can't quite keep him in his sights. It's difficult for him to read what Tinsley's doing, so Tinsley can spring the element of surprise with that gap, and he can pick up the speed, and he'll be looking to surprise Swinnerton as they get the bell next time.
Well, he's extremely sharp this week, Tinsley. In fact, he turned professional because he simply couldn't afford to continue racing as an amateur. And how successful he's been, and will now go on to the World Championships in Zurich. So there's the bell, 1 lap to go now. Swinnerton anxious to make sure that Tinsley doesn't take the element of surprise and drop down that banking. The pace now quickening a little bit. Tinsley winding up at the back. Swinnerton, a very experienced sprinter as well, and there he goes. So Tinsley, and that's a fake, I think. He's kept an eye on Swinnerton. He's gone back up the banking. Well, now he's got to make all the running now as he comes round towards the home straight now, and Swinnerton is fast, although he's now an amateur too. And look at this sprint for the line now, and on the line. Oh, and I think that probably went to Paul Swinnerton. He does too, but very, very close indeed. The time, Hugh?
Unofficially 12.02 for the last 200 metres. Now that is very good when you think that Tinsley, as you said, faked a jump and then didn't see it through. But as they run in onto the line here, Tinsley working his shoulders, he's just in the front here, but Swinnerton's got the speed to get over him, and it looks as though Swinnerton got that one on the line.
Well, in fact, I've just heard that was a dead heat, and they're going to rerun that race for us after our final race of the afternoon from Haydock Park, just after 3 races about to be rerun. So let's now join our commentators Hugh Porter and Phil Liggett.
So Terry Tinsley on the inside, a professional rider for the first time in his career, turned professional just 3 weeks ago, former British sprint champion, facing Paul Swinnerton on the far side. So Tinsley moves off, obliged under the rules. First man on the inside to start must stay in the front for the first lap, unless of course the rider behind volunteers to lead. And Tinsley going off, but very cagily indeed. Magnificent start to a professional career this week, in fact, because he's won 3 professional championships on the Leicester track. Turned professional because he said he simply couldn't afford to stay an amateur any longer.
And these two have had quite a lot of meetings together when it comes to sprinting, Phil. In 1981 it was Paul Swinnerton that took the national amateur sprint from Terry Tinsley, who we're looking at there. So they know a little bit about each other when it comes to sprinting around this Leicester Bowl. And Swinnerton, he took a bronze medal in the National Amateur Sprint Championships earlier this week. So both riders in very good form for the sprint, but both good tacticians as well. So there'll be quite a little bit of tactics here.
Well, I think that's being demonstrated here, Hugh, because there's no way that Swinnerton is going to close in on Tinsley. He's lying well off the back of him. The risk, of course, is that Tinsley will accelerate and leave something like 10 lengths for Swinnerton to make up. And also on this very, very steep banking, the riders must keep the forward pressure on those pedals, because the minute they relax, they will simply slide down the boards.
We saw one or two of those things happen last year, but there's a nice bit of riding there by Tinsley. He tried to work Swinnerton to the back, but Swinnerton was quick. He saw it and eased back himself on the pedals, and so Tinsley is still at the front. Now, I wonder if we're going to see a standstill here, Phil. That would be rather interesting to see whether they're going to stand still. Yes, I think Tinsley is electing to stand still to try and force Swinnerton to the front, but no, they're still rolling away. So Swinnerton at the back with the advantage.
Well, the famous standstill, and everybody wonders why in a track sprint do we see the slowest race on record. And the reason is, of course, that it's the man who gets the element of surprise wins the day normally. And the man at the front prefers the rider at the back to be in front of him. So the only way to try and manoeuvre this situation into being is to stand still on the track. But of course, at this level, both sprinters have the ability. And now it's a case of nerve, I think, because standing still on the steep banking there takes an awful lot of courage, because if you ease the pressure off that chain, then you for sure will go down the banking. And anything the professional Tinsley can do, it looks as though Swinnerton can do better, Hugh.
Yes, fine bit of tactical riding here. Swinnerton having worked Tinsley onto the front again, so the onus is still on the professional sprint champion to have to lead this one out. And Swinnerton giving him quite a lot of leeway there, but of course, out of sight from Tinsley, he could take a flyer from the back, and Tinsley will have to look to be aware of this.
Well, Swinnerton giving Tinsley a lot of leeway. Tinsley has won 5 gold medals in his career as an amateur in the British Championships, and there goes the bell. 1 lap to go now. Immediately an acceleration by Tinsley and a closer order by Swinnerton.
Tinsley still leading this one out. I thought that Swinnerton was going to go underneath there, but he wasn't having any of it, so Tinsley now still leading it down. But look at that, was brilliant riding by Swinnerton. The gap was there, he saw it and he's straight through, punching the air with delight. 12 minutes, 12 seconds, 0.10 over the last 200 metres. But what intelligent riding there by Swinnerton. Swinnerton saw the gap as Tinsley moved out, and of course Tinsley from that moment on was absolutely finished, because Swinnerton had had the height to come underneath Tinsley, and he punches the air with delight as he's over the line first.